We love you very much. If there's any way we can help you get through these next 4 years, these next 4 days, please reach out and let us know.
Where are the quiet gays? Where are the quiet gays supposed to go?
Good morning, my friend. Did you see what I titled this meeting?
And it made me smile because it's true.
Normally we'll like title it whatever book we're going through or whatever. And this morning I titled it, I don't even know what to call this meeting. Oh, how are you?
I'm good this morning. My mom is here. I picked her up late last night at the airport.
Why does your voice sound like this?
Nobody knows. I woke up
Nobody
like
knows
this.
the trouble I've seen.
Yeah.
Oh no, are you getting sick?
Let's hope not, because I have given my mom a complex. I've been sick every time she's visited me.
She's like, I'm bringing the sickness to you.
So I feel alive and well, but my voice
Okay.
sounds a little goofy. But
It kind of is like Phoebe in Friends episode where she gets sick and then her voice is all like raspy and she can actually sing well. And then she gets better and her like sexy voice goes away and then she's like licking everyone's coffee cups trying to get sick again. That's what it made me think
I
of.
love that episode. She's so funny.
I know. It's funny. You know how we like went back and rewatched the L Word? Well, at least I did. And you're like realizing who the good characters are. Like everyone like would shit on Phoebe, and then you look back and you're like, Phoebe's actually the best.
I love Phoebe.
She's so the best. Anyway, I'm fine. I'm good. Work was crazy the day after the election. It was horrible. But other than that, I guess I'm fine. I mean, what else can you be right now other than just like, we're here.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, what are we doing here today?
Yeah. Well, welcome, friends, back to the Lesbian Book Club podcast. And today we don't have a book for you. We are not covering an L Word episode. The election happened this week, and it did not go the way that we thought it would, at least the two of us and many, many others in our community. Upwards of 80% of the people in our LGBTQ plus community. And that has been really hurtful and sad and betraying for a lot of us. And I know that there's a lot of feelings that a lot of us are dealing with right now, and a lot of fear. And we wanted to sit in that with you and talk about it and just be here for a minute to process that and maybe talk a little bit about, maybe what's next for us or just any thoughts that we have. I don't have any notes today for once in my life.
Yep.
Because I just wanted to come and be in the moment with you guys and with you, Lauren. So I have some thoughts, and I also have some joys because I have really, really been thinking a lot about that since our conversation with Margaret about how joy is resistance, especially queer joy and Black joy and any other community that can sit on the margins of our society. And I experienced some really significant joys myself since the election that I'm just tearing up even thinking about it. I've shared them with people since they happened, and every time I've talked about it, I've cried. And they were just really small things that maybe any other day wouldn't have had such a significant impact on me, but because I've been thinking about this, and so anyway, I will share that with you guys, but that's what we're doing here today. So
I love it. For once, I actually have some notes.
Did we switch bodies?
It's the invasion of the body snatchers. Yeah, it's not good notes. It's kind of the opposite of what you just said. It's kind of the avalanche of things that have happened since the election, because I think we also need to be really real about that too. And it's, I wrote this yesterday morning, or I wrote my notes down yesterday morning, just things I've been seeing happen in communities around the country. And I think it's important to, yes, talk about the joy and things that we find post-election, but to also be really real about the impact that this is already having when the inauguration is 2.5 months away. And then we have 4 years on top of that. Because I have heard a lot of people being like, well, why are you scared? Like, you're going to be fine. And it's like, well, God forbid I care about other people. God forbid I care about my community in Nebraska or, any other red state where if gay marriage gets overturned, like Roe v. Wade did, which I have 100% belief that it will be, that their marriages will be annulled and it'll go back to the states and the states will bar it. And then they have to choose between staying in a state that hates them or uprooting their entire lives and basically fleeing to have a basic human right of marriage, right? So I think I can't wait to hear your stories, and I don't know which ones we should do first. I feel like we should do my icky ones first. And then I also have a poem. It's the poem that I linked in the show notes for our author interview with Margaret, called Etiquette Leash by Andrea Gibson. And I just want to read it.
I love Andrea Gibson.
I do too. She's such a wonderful poet, author. And yeah, she wrote this poem, I think in I want to say 2012, but I could be wrong. Like I always am. I'll link it in the show notes if I am. my corrections, because I think that's, in this day and age of disinformation and propaganda, it is good to always correct yourself when you're talking to a larger audience. So yeah, I have a couple things that I want to talk about really quickly, and maybe in the show notes I'll put the timestamps for if you don't want to hear these things, skip ahead to wherever it says down below. Should I just read them?
Yeah.
Okay. The night of the election and the coming days after, the LGBT suicide hotline is so backed up that they have to text you while you sit on hold to let you know that they're trying their best to get to everyone. There are boys, young and old, walking around yelling, "Your body, my choice," at little girls and women. Mike Davis, who is a leading candidate for the Trump administration's attorney general, he said this in 2023, but now he is a leading candidate for the attorney general of the United States. We're going to deport a lot of people, 10 million people and growing, anchor babies, their parents, their grandparents. We're going to put kids in cages. It's going to be glorious. They're also talking about taking away birthright citizenship from people retroactively and in the future, which is one of the main stakes of our country and its view on immigration. The day after the election, there was a march at Texas State University with signs like "Homo sex is sin" and "Women are property." Trump lackeys are already doubling down on Project 2025 and threatening to repeal birthright citizenship, which is what I just talked about. The Department of Education will be shut down. Not only is that awful for the entire childhood population, but especially those with any type of handicap who require an IEP. And I just wrote, my friends are all scared. They're scared they won't be able to get married. They're scared that they'll have to hide or be deported. And it's day 3. Now it's day 4, right? And I remember in the 2016 election when people were like counting the days and all the terrible things that were happening every single day, like on Twitter threads. And it's not even happened yet. And these things are happening. It's just an absolute nightmare to wake up every day and know that half the country just doesn't even see other people as human or only care about what this election could do for them. And the saddest part about it, from my take, is that they're so misinformed. you can look at the demographics coming out of the election, and you can look up at along so many different lines, but one of the main ones that I like to look at is the education factor here. Those that are more highly educated voted for Harris, and those that are less educated voted for Trump. And there's nothing wrong with not being educated, but we think about the Department of Education being disbanded and what that's going to mean moving forward if these are the demographics coming out of the election cycle, right? And there's a million other lines we could look at. You mentioned, I think the stat was 89% of LGBT people voted for Harris. And I do also want to say, like, Harris is not my pick. Like, she is not ideally who I would want on the ticket. To me, she's not far left enough. She ran a ultra center, even possibly somewhat right of center campaign, right? Tim Walz was a shining beacon for a little bit more of a left leaning policy. But yeah, the whole, just everything just feels broken right now.
Yeah, everything does feel broken. On your point about who's voting for Trump, I've seen a lot of people on my social media that are equating him with Jesus and God. They've posted once the results came out, like, Trump is good, Trump is God, God is good, America is saved, Jesus is back. I saw that over and over and over again on my social media from people that I know, that I grew up with. And it doesn't surprise me because these are all people that, it's not that these are bad people, but these are people that honestly have, and this is not me jumping to be mean at them. This is me just being honest, is that these are people that I have known my whole life to have never made an effort to know the truth about anything before just saying something. And they're the people that in school didn't care and didn't try. And maybe that's also because they, had a really hard time learning.
Yeah.
And that's not their fault if they did have a hard time. But like, those are the people that I am consistently seeing that are exalting him as something more than human. And that's scary because they aren't seeing him as a person, let alone a person who's done really horrific things.
Right.
And they don't understand that he doesn't care about them.
He does not care. He has said it. There was, not to hijack your point, but, somebody on Twitter got a lot of following, a lot of likes, a lot of circulation, said Trump could stand in the middle of the street and say, I hate Mexicans, and they would still vote for him. Yeah. And somebody pointed out, he has said that.
Yeah.
He has said that. And it doesn't matter if it's Mexicans, if it's women, if it's gay people. It doesn't matter who he says it about. There's certain parts of that population that are still going to vote for him. And it's like, but he doesn't care about you. He doesn't like you. He wants to get rid of you. And, you're talking about Trump and everyone saying, no, he's God and everything. His own vice president said he is the Hitler of America. His own VP said that. Yeah. So he's not God. He's not Jesus. He's a fascist, authoritarian dictator. And it's not just about Trump. It's about the entire administration and the cabinet and the people that he's going to put into power, the Supreme Court justices he could pick, the judicial system that he could implement, the laws that he can veto or, get rid of. ugh.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like they don't think about these things because they don't know to, which is a failure of our education system already. But it's also a symptom of propaganda, Fox
Yeah.
News, which they've even come out and said, like, we're not a news source, we are a propaganda station. It's insane. There's no journalistic integrity anymore, which because of I don't know if it's I don't want to say the SEC because I don't think that's who regulates it, but whoever regulates media and things like that, those departments have been gutted at a federal level. So how do you expect any type of accountability
Right.
anymore?
Right. There were also so many Google searches after the election or during, end stages of the election of, are tariffs bad?
Oh God,
Can
the
I
tariffs.
change my vote? Um, Things like that are
Yeah.
just showing like the people that voted for him didn't do their research.
No.
They just voted.
The
And
leading, go ahead.
I mean, the other thing about this that I've thought a lot about is that this in my the way I see it, in my perspective, this is undoubtedly a cult. Like this has
Oh
all the
yeah.
signs to me of a cult, and he is the cult leader.
Mm-hmm.
And in any other cult I can think of, at least like in the American history, general American history, because maybe there's something else that I don't know about. But I mean, there's been lots of cults. Usually, they kind of stick to themselves. They may have harmful practices, but usually they are only really affecting the people inside of the cult.
Mm-hmm.
This is something different because they are inflicting their cult beliefs on everybody else. Everybody is now going to fall victim
Mm-hmm.
to the rules of the cult, whether they have consented to be a part of it or not.
Yeah, and we can name the cult. The cult is the cult of Christian nationalism. That's what this cult is. Unfortunately, it was what 85% of white evangelicals voted for him. That evangelical, and this has been in the works since the 70s and 80s with Reagan, with Billy Graham. This has been their the Federalist Society. This has been their project since the 80s, and they stuck to it. That's something the Republicans can do better than anyone, is stick to a fucking plan. The Democrats could learn something. They played the long game. They played 40 years to get this man in office. And not this man, just anyone like him, right? He is a puppet. So it's tragic. And I want to go back to your point about like your friends that you're seeing from back home or from wherever they are, and like using their Christian language and their quote unquote Christian ideals to support this. And I saw a TikTok, and I have a screenshot right here, and I'm going to read it. And I posted it in my stories the night of the election. And it said, people are asking what radicalized you, right? Like, and a lot of people were asking, for the right, like what radicalized you over into these hateful things. But then on the other side, like for me, I used to be evangelical. I have a Bible college degree. Like, I know this stuff. I know these people inside and out. And this girl wrote, "What radicalized you?" And she just was quoting literally straight from the Bible. "They will know you by your love. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That which you've done for the least of these, you've done unto me. Sell everything you have and give it to the poor. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt, for I am the Lord your God." I hate when Christians can stand behind this man who his entire persona flies in the face of the gospels of Jesus. The whole putting your hopes in the election as Christians is so far off base. One of my librarian from Bible college, she posted a thing like, did people not even read the gospels? Like, Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and then go and be with your community. Like, and he's talking about taxes in that sense. But I don't understand how people can read the Bible and read the things Jesus said, read the things, I would say Paul, but I don't like him. Read the things, especially Luke. Luke's one of my favorite gospels. And John, also one of my favorite gospels. The love that is seeping out of those for the stranger, the Good Samaritan, the just feed everyone. Like, Jesus was a communist. He's like, free bread, free fish, give everything away. Like, the people who do the work should reap the benefits. Like, I don't know how people read this and come away with anything other than be nice to your fellow human and accept them and love them, because that's what Jesus did for you.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't know. I'm also so confused. I mean, this also feels maybe beside the point of this podcast and like a tangent, but
it doesn't matter. That's what we're here for today.
Somebody very, very dear to me who I love so much and feels like one of maybe the biggest betrayals and pains of people that voted for Trump and thinks that Trump is a great man.
I'm sorry, Haylie.
Runs a social service to the community, and it's much needed. Like, it's an absolute necessity to the community. And this person has been doing it for many, many years. And I am just not sure what they think is going to happen when this administration, who doesn't really believe in social services and funding them, is given so much power with all of the branches of government now in his favor. What's going to happen to this absolute necessary service that they run?
Yeah.
Where's the funding? It's going to disappear.
Yeah.
So what, but they think that everything is going to be less expensive, and it doesn't make any sense. It blows my mind.
They think it's not going to affect them.
Yeah.
They also have a severe case of what I've been talking about to everyone that will listen to me, of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that is, I will read you a definition. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological state of discomfort that occurs when someone holds conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or actions. The word cognitive refers to your thoughts, while dissonance describes a lack of harmony. Cognitive dissonance can motivate people to change their beliefs or behaviors to reduce the discomfort. People may resolve cognitive dissonance by changing their beliefs, justifying their beliefs, and ignoring conflicting information.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like what you said, like, he runs a social service that is funded. Is it funded federally?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So he is trying to make an impact. And that's what you said earlier. These aren't bad people. They're misinformed people.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are bad people, but there's
Right.
there's bad people all throughout the spectrum of political beliefs, right? Like, it doesn't matter. But he is thinking, he's doing things out of different parts of his brain, right? He's voting one way without realizing the impact on his life goal, which I'm assuming is doing the social services.
Yeah, this is someone that's devoted their life to doing this.
Right. And unfortunately, I was talking to my coworker, and she was talking about her ex-husband, and she was like, he didn't understand anything unless it personally happened to him.
Yeah.
And to me, that's To me, that's no way. I've said this on the podcast before, but it's no way to exist in community.
Which I really want to talk about community
Oh, let's do
today.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, are we going to talk
So
about joys?
we are going to talk about joys, but this is a little more expansive than joys too, I think.
Okay.
I was listening, which I want to also invite everybody to go listen to this episode of the We Can Do Hard Things podcast. They had a family meeting episode the day after the results came out. And if you don't know, We Can Do Hard Things has Glennon Doyle, Abby Doyle, and Abby Wambach. Sorry, not Abby Doyle, Amanda Doyle.
I was like, wait a second.
And Abby Wambach. And I adore them. They had a family meeting the day after the election, and they talked about a lot of great things. They also were processing feelings. And Amanda talked a lot about community because she, like me, had a lot of this, betrayal going on where she had people, close people in her life that she was like, what the heck? You are a good, decent, smart person who I thought was in community with me. Why did you vote this way?
Yeah.
And she was talking about how what she thought was her community was not. And how she needed to reevaluate what community is to her. Because community is a group of people that you surround yourself with, that you look out for each other, you protect one another, you stick up for each other, you make sure that you're okay. And community is vital to not only survival, but thriving. And now I'm getting off of Amanda and I'm going into me, but it's vital for these things.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been, something that I feel like I've been just like having 3 or 4 topics on this like crunch wheel in my head
Yeah.
for a few weeks now that just keep churning over and over and over. And community and joy are both in there. And I think that during this time, it's really, really hard to see people that you thought were part of your community actively do something that is so against what would be a value of your community. Mm-hmm. And what would be protecting your community, and instead is actually threatening the safety of members of your community.
Right.
And when that happens, you have to reevaluate what what maybe the borders of your community are, but also at this time, it's hard. This is where I don't know. That's another thing, is that it's okay to not know, because I don't know how I feel about borders. There's
Oh, that was funny because I almost made a joke when you said borders. And I was like, we should not talk about borders.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how I feel about borders. Borders are a social construct that don't actually exist. But I hear, and I'm also a big proponent of the no human being is illegal movement. But when you're talking about borders on your community,
I'm talking about a different kind of borders.
Yeah, when you're talking about borders on the community, I'm like, yeah, don't let those people in.
But see, I'm talking about like a border within your community that's more like a boundary to keep,
yes,
a safety and an emotional safety, more than an emotional safety in some cases, but
right. Yeah.
But I also, I think that here's where the line gets fuzzy, because I think that kindness is really important always. And I think that we cannot get anywhere if we are not kind. And anything that is less than kind will be turned around and used against us. And I think that we can make our points, and we can be powerful, and we can have our voices heard, and we can be who we are while being nonviolent, while with our words and with our actions.
Yeah.
And this all has to do with borders for me, because I feel like the more aggressive and hurtful and violent that our words are, the stronger that a border becomes and turns into a wall.
Yeah.
And the more divisive that our greater community as the United States of America becomes.
Yeah, I want to push back a little bit on that, only because one, the Andrea Gibson poem I'm going to read talks about there's such thing as a nonviolent fist. That she stopped being a pacifist when she heard Gandhi told women to not fight back against their rapists. And to me, of course, you know me, I'm a proponent of kindness and, just, almost if you want to be Christian about it, turning the other cheek. Like, I'm very much like, okay, you did that to me. I'm not going to do something back, but I will put up a boundary and say I'm not going to accept it. Right. Mm-hmm. But let's just talk about those on the left. We've been kind, right? Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. That has gotten us nowhere except to a point of where our rights are about to be taken away. At what point do we look at the French and go revolution? And revolution is bloody. Obviously, I don't want that. Like, my children's generation are going to be the ones to fight that battle. The Gen Alpha generation is going to be the generation lost to protest and war. If things really, like Margaret said, when shit hits the fan. I think we're on a trajectory to follow in the steps of the world, which is ever approaching fascism and far right leaning thinking. And, I do think we should punch Nazis in the street. Like, I do think there's a place for violence in this type of scenario, I guess. Am I going to do it? Probably not. Am I going to support people that do? Like, kind of, because you can't allow some of these ideologies to exist. I always say, well, I didn't say it, I'm not that smart, but for a tolerant society to exist, intolerance must not be tolerated. Right? People are like, oh, you have to tolerate my beliefs. You have to tolerate my support for a fascist dictator. And it's like, no, I don't. Because all toleration for these types of ideologies and viewpoints got us were the gas chambers. Where do we go from there? So no, I'm not going to tolerate your unending support of somebody who wants to see other people as less than human, which is like step 4 on the way to genocide. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. I can't do that for my children. I can't do that for the children of the world and for the grownups of the world. Like, we're here too, Mm-hmm. But I think it's easier to understand these viewpoints if you put it in the aspect of, taking care of those who are unable to take care of themselves, like children. And I do want to be clear, like, I'm not an advocate for violence, but at what point when you are being violated and having violence put upon you, are you allowed to fight back? And I really just, we're going to close this out with the poem, I think, because I think it just sums up everything we're saying. But we are in a time of action. And yes, that action can be kind and loving, but we also have to save that kind and loving spirit for our own communities and those that are with us and support us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was like a long pushback and some of it wasn't pushback, but and obviously it's not pushback because I disagree with you. It's just like a flip side of what you're saying.
I see what you're saying. You, and I give you one more.
Yeah, do it.
Because I agree with you on some parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that we shouldn't tolerate being violated. We shouldn't tolerate fascism. We should absolutely not. I am also on the thought stream here of this is another thing. I'm going to go back to Amanda, okay? Back to the community portion. And also I'm going to bring up in Madagascar. Hold on, what is her name?
The movie with the zebra?
Not the movie, the country.
Oh, okay.
The real life country.
That's one of my favorite animated movies. I was like, what did the zebra say? That was so good.
Okay, this woman's name, I'm really not going to say it right, and I deeply apologize because she's wicked smart, and I really loved what she had to say. Ketochondriana Rafitosin.
That was good.
She is an activist in Madagascar, and she gave a TED Talk about democracy and the people having power. And there is a false democracy in Madagascar right now that is really a dictatorship. And what's going on there is that people vote, but then the same dictator rigs the election and wins every time.
Well, of course.
And people are, barely getting by and don't have basic human rights like power and water and food. And they're living hard lives.
Yeah.
And so she talks about the power of citizen assembly and learning about democracy and, citizens educating each other and coming together and exercising their power in community. And it fit a lot with what Amanda was saying about how the government has never been made to protect us. It was made for its own purposes to, there's definite purposes for government.
Right.
But
it's not an altruistic invention.
Exactly. And there are so many people that fall through the cracks and get hurt. And these people, all of the people, have to be in community with each other and have to protect one another. We have to see our neighbors. This is what she was saying, Amanda. We have to actually go and see our next door neighbor who needs a lawyer, who needs their kid taken care of after school because they have to go work a second job or they're going to lose their house.
Mm-hmm.
We need to go recognize when somebody's hungry and we have some leftovers and maybe help them out.
Yeah.
We have to talk to our neighbors and figure out what their needs are and look into our network and see how we can help. And guess what? When we have a need, our network is going to turn around and do the same for us when we've been doing the same for them.
Yep.
And this is what community is. And when we do that for each other, when we have this is what power is. Because when we look inside, instead of looking at a government who is never going to help us and never has, because also this is what she was saying, Black women who voted, most of them voted for Kamala.
91%.
Yeah, they knew all along that the government was never meant for them.
Yep. Yep.
now we're all learning this. The government is not meant for us, and we have to be the ones that carry us and protect ourselves and take care of ourselves. And so here's where I get back to your point, is that when we act as community and we don't look to what all of that outside noise is as much, automatically all of a sudden there's a little bit less power. They can still take things away. We have extra resources and network already from just talking and looking next door instead of acting as individuals.
Yeah.
And then where I go next is that I think what we have already done, yes, I do think that, we've tried things already and it hasn't worked. But what I think that we've done a lot of trying is being on our phones and being internet warriors.
Sure.
That hasn't worked. And so here's where I think that like we have to escape that. And we have to try something new. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to escalate to violence. I think that we try this community thing. And then Glennon made a point that really, I think, fits this as well, is that when you get caught in a riptide, AKA the government and mega and all this stuff right now, you don't go directly against it. You don't meet it with the violence of trying to swim against it, because you get stuck and you're met. I mean, that's what's exactly what happens if you have violence on violence, is you're stuck in this like battle with each other, right? You swim upstream a little bit and then you keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I know that metaphors are not always directly applicable to life, but that did kind of like give me an idea of like, oh my gosh, when somebody is, and that's not always what you can do. If somebody inflicts like actual serious harm on you, you can't always just, okay, take a step to the side and move on. That's not, like I said, metaphors are not always directly applicable to life. However, my thought of this, the way I envision this is, when you take a step upstream, that's where your community sits. It carries you back into shore. And I don't know, maybe that's naive of me to think.
It's not naive of you. Like, you're to take your metaphor into real world practice. What you're talking about is mutual aid. And there are so many mutual aid organizations who are taking that exact stance and actually feeding the community. Shoot, I'm friends with a nurse on Instagram who I'll link her mutual aid in the show notes. And, they go out and they feed the homeless, they make sandwiches, they give medical care for free. Like, this is mutual aid. That's exactly what you're talking about. It is. Yeah. It's meeting the needs of the community without the government's help. And that's all we're going to have moving forward. That's all we're going to have. Which is terrifying. But it is, but it's also a powerful tool. Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's talk some joy, Haylie. I want to hear the joy that you have to share with us. I don't have a lot, so I'm going to let you take it away, and then we'll end with Andrea Gibson's poem. Yes. Okay, so to give some background context before I give my joy. Okay. I'm going to bring up again the demographics of who voted what way. Okay. Do it. Because this was on my mind before I had my moment of joy. And that's what made this so impactful for me. And this is not, I'm having an issue really quick. People feeling like they're being called out for their vote or being, put on their heels about it. You're not being called out. You're being called to accountability. Yeah. you did do this. Whether you like it or not, you did this. And that's not calling someone out for something. That's literally saying, take accountability for it. You made your bed, lay in it. Why are you so, why are you so offended by me pointing out what you did? Okay, let's hear it. What are the demographics?
This is just to add on to that. We want to call you into the community and ask why.
I don't want to call them into the community. They are causing harm to the community.
But
where's your boundary?
What I'm saying is, I believe that people can change their mind. And I think that if somebody is able to educate themselves and figure out what's going on and change their mind and take accountability and reach out and make, really make amends with their community, we're calling people in to do that.
Haylie is our Sprite optimist on this show. And I am a kind of a big proponent of people don't change. Yes, if the 1% of people that do that, everything you just said, educate themselves, make amends, blah, 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 I will welcome them with open arms. Never seen it happen.
Well, we'll see.
Sorry, Haylie. I love what you're saying. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'd love to see it happen. I'm just not optimistic. I was not surprised at these results of the election. I really wasn't. That could be my 2016 Hillary Clinton trauma that was coming about. But yeah, I was not surprised when it happened. I was like, makes sense.
Yeah.
So people don't change. At least not drastically.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear them talking outside?
No.
Okay, good.
Have you heard the 13 times my children have come in? Yeah. Go for it. I can't hear them.
Okay, good. So our exit poll for the election was on my mind, and for white men and white women, 60% of white men voted for Trump and 53% of white women voted for Trump. Black women, 91% of Black women voted for Harris.
Mm-hmm.
So that number was sitting heavy on my head and on my heart. And I had gotten up at 4 a.m. I was also thinking about Joy's Resistance a lot. And I'd gotten up at 4 a.m. to go to work. And I stopped to get a coffee. And this was also something that was, I'm not going to call it mutual aid. I'm going to call this mutual care, this specific thing, because one of my best friends did something that I thought was beautiful. And she, after the results went up, she posted on her Instagram story a coffee gift card and said, "Hey friends, go take care of yourselves. Coffee's on me today." And before I knew it, she had posted like 5 more stories of all of her friends contributing to this gift card, and there was like $200 on this thing.
Oh, cute. Yeah.
And I went in at the crack of dawn and I got a coffee to take to work. And I was the only person in there. And the second I walk in, there's 2 Black women working. And they meet me. I'm about to cry and tell this story. It was any other day, this is the most mundane story. Anyone would be like, why is this a story, Haylie? But um, they meet me with the most joy when I walk in the door. This is hours after Trump is announced the next president of the United States. And the statistics say that they probably didn't vote that way, right? And also the statistics say that I probably did. So they had no good reason to meet me with any joy at all, or even kindness. And instead, they were so kind. And I walked in the door, and it wasn't even just a normal, like, hi, how are you? It was a, hi, we're so glad you're here. Come on in. And it took me by surprise, because I can't even remember since moving to LA the last time that somebody greeted me like that when I walked into like a public place.
Right.
And I order, and they talk to me the whole time as I'm waiting for my coffee, and they're like, "You're the first person to get a Caesar or a holiday drink. Oh my gosh, do you want to watch us put the toppings on?" And they're so excited to open up the toppings, the brand new Christmas stuff, and they hand it to me. They're like, "I hope you have the best day ever." And I was like, my day just, I had every reason to be bad, and it couldn't after that. And anyway, I walked out the door, and I thanked them for making my day, and I thought about them all day after that. And at work, there were just things going wrong all day. Like everyone was like, "Why are we even here? This day is so cursed."
Yeah.
Like seriously crazy things were going wrong. People were getting on car wrecks. There was a giant fire. There was a gas leak. There was like one of our most important people to the job slept in and was 2 hours late. Like just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And nothing faced me because of the joy that these two women gave me, and they had no reason to. And that really cemented for me that, yeah, joy is resistance, because not only is that a difference maker in their days, and however many other people came into their shop that day, but I turned around after being treated that way that morning, and I treated everybody else with joy all day.
Yeah.
And now I have this story, and I'm not going to forget it. And it's given me this perspective on joy's resistance. And I've spent a significant amount of time on the internet since then looking up like queer joy projects, and I put out on our Instagram page, everybody please share your queer joy stories with us, because I want you to. I want to share your queer joy stories. I want to start that ripple effect, and I think that hope is a powerful tool. I think that joy can bring us together, and it's something that I don't want to use the word manufacture because that feels too like mechanistic, but that's the only word I can think of for this right now. Like we manufacture it for ourselves, and it's something that no matter the circumstances, nobody else can take away from us.
I think that's what Margaret was getting at when she said, when you asked that question of how do we bring our joy and or like our, kind of like our joy into the mainstream. And she said, you just exist because it's who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Margaret, for sending me into this. whatever this is, thought spiral about
Yeah.
joy. Um, but yeah, and now my mom came, and I'm about to have more joyful moments. And it's, yeah,
Good.
it's good. It is good.
Yeah.
And I will share with you all, there is something out there called the Queer Joy Project.
Yes. Yes.
There is a book that I'm now interested in reading called Feel Good. And it's an anthology of stories about queer joy. And it has a bunch of Nigerian authors.
Oh, cool.
And I really want to read that now. And the cover is just this like beautifully illustrated thing. And
Put it on our list, Haylie.
yeah, it is definitely going on our list. So anyway, people, email us your joy stories. And I also want to give you guys another listen that gave me some more perspective and a little bit of joy as well. And it was about how to get what you want out of life, but it also was really relevant to, this is, more specifically for women, but it can be for anybody. And it was another how we can do hard things episode. But this one was with Gillian Anderson.
I was wondering if you were going to do that one.
Yeah. And I think that was another very powerful listen for me this week. So if you guys are just trying to process your feelings and process everything right now, that might be a good listen for you, as it was for me.
Perfect. No, that's perfect. Thank you for sharing your story. That was definitely made me tear up. Okay, should I read a closing poem?
Please do.
Okay, it's a little long, guys, so buckle up. You can also listen to, I believe, Andrea Gibson read it herself, linked into the show notes of our last episode. But this is called Etiquette Leash by Andrea Gibson. And she writes, I want a good heart. I want it to be made of good stuff. I want the stained glass window builder to be my drinking buddy. I want to drink only the punch of 1,000,000 genderqueer school kids taking free martial arts lessons to survive recess. I stopped calling myself a pacifist when I heard Gandhi told women they should not physically fight off their rapists. I believe there is such a thing as a nonviolent fist. I believe the earth is a woman muzzled, beaten, tied to the cold, slinging tracks. I believe the muzzled have every right to rip off the Bible belt and take it to the patriarchy's ass. I know these words are going to get me in trouble. It is never polite to throw the tear gas, just like it's never polite to bring enough life rafts. They crowd the balconies where the wealthy shine their jewels, but sometimes love, sometimes real love, is fucking rude. Is interrupting a wedding mid-vow, just as the congregation is about to cry, to stand up in your pew to say, is everyone here clear on how diamonds are mined? Hallelujah to every drag queen at Stonewall who made weapons out of her stiletto shoes. Hallelujah to the blues keeping the neighborhood awake, to the activists standing in the snow outside of the circus holding a 10-foot photograph of a baby elephant in chains when it's probably some little kid's birthday. Hallelujah to making everyone uncomfortable, to the terrible manners of truth, to refusing to clean the blood off the plate. Bend this spine into a bow I can pull across the cello of my speak up. Love readies its heart's teeth, chews through the etiquette's leash, takes down the cell phone tower after millions of people die in wars in the Congo fighting for the minerals that make our cell phones. Love blows up the dam, chains itself to the redwood tree, to the Capitol building when a trailer of Mexican immigrants are found dead on the South Texas roadside. Love insists well-intentioned white people officially stop calling themselves colorblind. Insists hope laces its fucking boots, always calls out the misogynist, racist, homophobic joke, refuses to be a welcome mat where hate wipes its feet. Love asks questions at the most inappropriate times, overturns the Defense of Marriage Act, then walks a pride parade, asking when the plight of poor single mothers will ignite our hearts into action like that. Love is not polite. Deadlocks are rush hour traffic with 100 stubborn screaming bikes. Hallelujah to every suffrage movement, hunger strike. Hallelujah to insisting they get your pronouns right. Hallelujah to tact never winning our spines, to taking our power all the way back to that first glacier that had to learn how to swim, to not turning our heads from a single ugly truth, to knowing we live in a time when beauty recruits its models outside the doors of eating disorder clients. That is not a metaphor. This is not a line to a poem. An Indian farmer walks into a crowd of people and stabs himself in his chest to protest the poisoning of his land. A Buddhist monk burns himself alive on the streets of Saigon. A U.S. soldier hangs himself wearing his enemy's dog tags around his holy neck. May my heart be as heavy as a tuba in the front row of the Mardi Gras parade 5 months after Katrina. May it weigh the weight of the world so it might anchor the sun, so it might hold me to my own light till I am willing to sweat as much as I cry, till I am willing to press into the clay of our precious lives a window. Might our grace riot the walls down. May the droughts howl us awake. May we rush into the streets to do the work of opening each other's eyes. May our good hearts forever be too loud to let the neighbors sleep. Real love, true love is rude and it's disruptful. And I think that's what we're all going to have in mind the next 4 years. So, as always, guys, we love you very much. If there's any way we can help you get through these next 4 years, these next 4 days, please reach out and let us know.
Yeah. Remember to be there for your people.
Yep.
We love you.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.